For local election headquarters.
We had a great panel this week, a couple great guests, and a first-timer as well, at least on this program, Kingsburg Mayor Michelle Roman. Thanks so much for being here, Michelle.
Glad
We
to be
appreciate
here.
it.
Thank you.
And he's the California State Director for Mi Familia Vota, Samuel Molina. Samuel, always good to see you, sir.
Glad to be here.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the primary again. I know we're kind of getting away from it a little bit, but I wanted to talk turnout. I alluded to it with Justin Mendez in the last segment, specifically Latino turnout. Samuel, this is what you guys do at Mi Familia Vota. You try to get people to the polls. You try to register as many people, and we've seen so many new Latinos register to vote here in this past year.
You know, that's correct. I mean, over the last 4 years since I've been with the organization, we've registered over 37,000 people to vote. 75% of them are between the ages of 17 and 30 years of age. There were multiple organizations across the state. We're part of a coalition called Why Vote that were just focusing on the youth vote, trying to make sure that you know, the youth were out there getting registered to vote, knew when the June election was coming up, preparing them for the November election. I think there was a lot of attention towards the youth, and right now, I know the last numbers for California, or earlier, right after the primaries, it said 21% of Californians had voted, which, you know, was pretty sad. However,
yeah, that's bad.
There's about 2 million ballots that were still left to be counted, so that could bring us up to 36%, which we haven't seen those numbers since 1994.
Okay, because we keep talking about, you know, is there this blue wave, and we keep hearing about the blue wave, it's coming, and it's coming, and people angry with President Trump and stuff. And I don't know if right now there's any data to show that President Trump drove a huge number of new people to the ballot. Would you agree with that?
I would say more than likely he did, because he's driving a lot of people to become naturalized citizens, right? We see an uptick here, right here at Valdez Hall, where we used to see about 600 to 800 people become citizens. We're seeing about 800.
Do new citizens vote at higher rates than?
Yes, they do. They're 10% more likely to vote than natural-born citizens.
Michelle, what are you guys thinking about the, you know, especially when you come at it from a small city like Kingsburg, where you guys had, I'm going to ask you about, you know, a measure that you had on your ballot. Every vote matters for something like this. So when you talk about turnout, it's got to be critical for you guys.
Absolutely, and I absolutely agree also with getting out that younger vote. I think that is the most important thing, because every vote does matter. And I think that it's important to get those new voters out there, because we've got a lot of people who have never voted before. And I think those 18-year-olds, my daughter turned 18 this year, and the first thing she said to me is, "Mom, I get a vote." And I think that's important. I think that you're seeing new voters out there, and the more that we can get people starting to vote at a young age, they're going to continue to vote later on.
It's funny, because a producer that I work with here at the station was lamenting the fact that his 18-year-old was saying, "Why do I got to vote? I don't know any of these people." So apparently there's all types of teenagers out there, and there's all types of answers, and it's finding is it a challenge, Samuel, trying to find new ways to reach and convince not just young people, but adults as well, to get out to the polls?
Well, I would say that, you know, it's always about making that connection. Why does it matter to vote? And I think that right now a lot of youth are making that connection, right? Unfortunately, you know,
not everybody.
Yeah, not everybody is, but they are in larger numbers, making that connection. And once we made that connection, you know, statistically they say youth voters, once they start at 18, are likely to become voters for the rest of their lives. So, and then as far as the older demographic voter, you know, those who are becoming naturalized typically are over the age of 40, 50 years of age, and then they start to become voters as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The older you get, the more you vote. That's what we've seen, no matter who you are. That's one consistent thing. Samuel, I did see you pretty fired up on Twitter. You sent out something applauding the fact that the city of San Joaquin unanimously opposed that citizenship question that is going to be put on the 2020 census.
Well, it's still being debated, right? The citizenship question on the 2020 census it's very threatening to all of us, you know, no matter what your background is. The reason being is that the census, there are 266 programs that are funded because of the census. So California receives $76 billion a year as a result of the census count. And if you're an advocate for veterans, especially disabled veterans, that's a program that's going to be impacted. Public health, public safety, healthcare, children with special needs, all of these programs that I just mentioned will be impacted if the census is there's an undercount and then we're not adequately funded. So it's a threat to all of us. And this public safety measure that you just passed, you might have the police department asking for more money because they're not going to get it from the feds.
Mayor, what do you think about this citizenship question that they're talking about with the census? Does it bother you, or do you think it sounds like a reasonable thing to ask?
Well, I think that, you know, when you ask me about the city of San Joaquin, I think every city has that's their choice, however they want to do that. And so what works in the city of San Joaquin and how they want to make the decision, that's really up to them.
And of course, they can't change the rule. They're just making a statement about it, obviously.
Exactly. And I think that's the decision that someone has to make themselves.
Let me ask you about that. We've brought it up a couple of times now, the public safety tax, the measure that was on the ballot in Kingsburg. You had to get, what, 2/3 of the vote in order for it to pass?
Yeah.
And you got over 70% of the vote.
Yeah, we got almost 72% of the vote, which was huge in the city of Kingsburg. And I mean, honestly, I can't thank obviously all the voters enough, but that really comes down to public safety is very important in the city of Kingsburg, and they really value our fire department and our police department. But that, you don't just say, well, we're going to put it out there on the ballot and let's just pray and fingers crossed that it's going to happen. I honestly have to say we had a great Measure E committee, and going out, both of our fire department, our police department went door to door to door. They really went out there and sold it, not only just to say, yes, you know, we need to hire more police and fire, but we need more than that. We need a fire engine, ambulance, we need technology upgrades. And so they went out there and they said, this is what we need. This is why you need to support this. I mean, nobody likes a tax. I don't like a new sales tax, but there's more to it than that. And this is why you need to value these departments and why you need to go out there and support this. And the guys did such a great job doing that.
In about 30 seconds, do you see now other cities watching you? Have you heard anything?
I have heard from several cities already asking how we did it.
Is Fresno one of them?
Fresno was not one of them, but I'm sure.
But I've heard that it's been kicked around here in Fresno from top leadership.
That is correct.
I'm sure it has. But this is going to generate, you know, almost $1 million for us, and the things that we're going to be able to purchase for that and just be able to upgrade for those departments is going to be huge. It does have a sunset clause, so this is not permanent. So we're going to have to look at this again in 10 years. But I hope that the citizens of Kingsburg see that we're spending the money well, because it is a two-thirds of a vote. We do have to put in a separate pot of money, and there will be an oversight committee that will make sure it's spent correctly.
We will see if we start seeing more public safety taxes pop up on ballots. I'm sure we will too. Thanks so much. You guys stay put. We got more from our panel in a little bit, but stay with us. My interview with Fresno City Councilman Luis Chavez, who is balancing what could be an interesting election in the fall with a number of issues at City Hall. Next.